In a world painted with the vibrant hues of every emotion, where joy was a brilliant gold and sorrow a deep, somber blue, a strange phenomenon began. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the colors started to fade. The once radiant landscapes of laughter and love bled into muted shades of gray. The world was falling into monochrome, and with it, its people were losing their ability to feel. Apathy became a suffocating blanket, leaving everyone numb, their hearts as colorless as the world around them. In this desaturated existence lived Elara, a young artist with a unique gift, or perhaps a curse. While others saw only shades of gray, she could still perceive faint, fleeting wisps of color. A flicker of shy pink in a shared glance, a ghost of angry red in a clenched fist, a pale, watery teal in a silent tear. These echoes of emotion were all that remained, and they fueled her art, her desperate attempts to capture the memory of a vibrant world on her canvases. Her studio was a sanctuary of faint color in a sea of gray, a testament to what was lost. One day, while sketching the gnarled trunk of an ancient, colorless willow, Elara's fingers brushed against a loose piece of bark. Beneath it, carved into the wood, was a symbol she had never seen before, a heart radiating 7 distinct lines. Her touch seemed to awaken something within the tree. A faint, prismatic light pulsed from the carving, and a voice, ancient and soft like rustling leaves, whispered into her mind. It spoke of an old prophecy, a tale of the Prism Heart, a legendary artifact said to hold the very essence of all emotion, the source of all the world's color. The prophecy foretold that when the world faded, a hue keeper would be born, one who could still see the echoes of color and would be destined to seek the Prism Heart to restore the lost emotional spectrum. Elara's own heart hammered in her chest, a stark contrast to the quiet stillness of the world around her. Could she be this hue keeper? The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. Looking at her hands, which could still mix pigments to create a pale imitation of sunshine yellow, she knew she had to try. The world couldn't remain this way, a silent, gray photograph of its former self. Packing her satchel with sketchbooks, charcoal, and a few precious pigments, Elara set out from her quiet village, her gaze fixed on the horizon, ready to embark on a perilous journey. Her path led her first through the Ashen Plains, a vast expanse that was once a rolling meadow of emerald green. Now it was a desolate landscape of ash and dust under a perpetually overcast sky. Here, the lack of emotion was palpable. She encountered people with vacant eyes and listless movements, their existence reduced to mere routine. They didn't speak, they didn't smile, they didn't weep, they simply were. It was a haunting sight, and a wave of profound sadness. A deep, aching blue washed over Elara. This feeling, so rare now, strengthened her resolve. She had to bring the colors back. As she traveled deeper, the emotional void began to take on a more sinister form. The prophecy had warned of creatures twisted by the emotional drain. In the whispering woods, where trees once gossiped on the breeze, she faced the murmurgeists. These were beings born from forgotten whispers and stifled words, their forms shifting like smoke. They fed on the faint emotional energy that Elara carried, their touch icy and draining, threatening to pull her into the same numb emptiness as everyone else. She fought back not with a sword, but with her art. With swift, certain strokes, she sketched a blazing fire, pouring her memory of courage and warmth, a brilliant, defiant orange, onto the page. The light from her drawing repelled the ghostly creatures, their misty forms dissolving as they recoiled from the raw emotion she had manifested. Her journey then took her to the Shattered Peaks, a mountain range of jagged gray rock that had once glowed with the warm colors of ambition and determination. Now it was home to the golems of apathy. These colossal stone creatures were formed from the collective indifference of the world. They were not malicious, but they were obstacles, their immense bodies blocking the path forward. They moved with a slow, grinding finality, embodying the crushing weight of a world that had simply given up. To pass them, Elara couldn't rely on force. Instead, she sat before the largest golem and began to draw. She drew the memory of a sunrise, the hope of a new day, painting the paper with strokes of soft pink and hopeful gold. She poured all her longing for a better world into the image. The golem, seemingly unfeeling, paused. It slowly turned its massive stone head to look at her drawing. A low rumble echoed from its chest, and for the first time in centuries, a fissure of soft, golden light cracked across its stony surface. It slowly, deliberately moved aside, clearing the path for her. Finally, following the faint trail of prismatic light that only she could see, Elara arrived at the crystal chasm, a deep abyss where the Prism Heart was said to be hidden. The chasm was a dizzying void of gray, but at its very bottom, a faint rhythmic pulsing of light could be seen. This was it. But guarding the heart was the final and most dangerous trial, the echo of despair. This entity was not a monster of flesh or stone, but a formless shadow that radiated a crushing aura of hopelessness. It was the concentrated emotional residue of all the world's sorrow and loss, a black hole of feeling that threatened to consume Elara's own spirit. As she descended, the echo's voice slithered into her mind, whispering all her deepest fears. It showed her visions of failure, of a world forever gray, of her own colors fading until she was just as numb as everyone else. Her steps faltered, the precious colors in her mind's eye beginning to dim. The blue of sadness deepened into an overwhelming black. Doubt, a sickly, venomous green, began to cloud her thoughts. She was just one person. How could she possibly hope to repaint the entire world? But then she remembered why she started. She thought of the vacant eyes on the ashen plains, the warmth of the orange fire she had drawn, the crack of golden light on the golem's chest. These weren't just colors, they were life itself. Clinging to this realization, Elara did the one thing she knew how to do. She opened her sketchbook to a fresh page. She didn't draw a memory this time. Instead, she drew the future. She drew people laughing, their faces lit with golden joy. She drew friends embracing, wrapped in the warm red of affection. She drew a child marveling at a butterfly, a kaleidoscope of wonder in its eyes. She drew tears of happiness, shining with the silver light of relief. With every stroke of her charcoal, she channeled not just the memory of emotion, but the fierce, unwavering hope for its return. She poured every ounce of her own feeling, her love, her sorrow, her fear, and her defiant hope onto the page. The formless echo of despair recoiled. It was a creature of pure negativity, and this raw, complex, and overwhelmingly positive creation was something it couldn't comprehend. It was a symphony of emotion in a world of silence. A brilliant, multicolored light erupted from Elara's sketchbook, pushing back the oppressive darkness. The shadow shrieked and dissolved, unable to exist in the face of such powerful, multifaceted feeling. The path was clear. At the bottom of the chasm, resting on a crystalline pedestal, was the Prism Heart. It was a crystal heart, but it was dull and gray, barely beating with a faint, weak light. Elara approached it, her own heart pounding. She knew what she had to do. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hand upon its surface. She didn't just touch it. She opened her soul to it. She poured all her emotions, all the colors she had so carefully guarded and cultivated, into the crystal. The faint pink of her shyness, the deep blue of her sadness, the fiery orange of her courage, the hopeful gold of her dreams. The path was clear. At the bottom of the chasm, resting on a crystalline pedestal, was the Prism Heart. It was a crystal heart, but it was dull and gray, barely beating with a faint, weak light. Elara approached it, her own heart pounding. She knew what she had to do. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hand upon its surface. She didn't just touch it. She opened her soul to it. She poured all her emotions, all the colors she had so carefully guarded and cultivated, into the crystal. The faint pink of her shyness, the deep blue of her sadness, the fiery orange of her courage, the hopeful gold of her dreams. The path was clear. At the bottom of the chasm, resting on a crystalline pedestal, was the Prism Heart. It was a crystal heart, but it was dull and gray, barely beating with a faint, weak light. Elara approached it, her own heart pounding. She knew what she had to do. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hand upon its surface. She didn't just touch it. She opened her soul to it. She poured all her emotions, all the colors she had so carefully guarded and cultivated, into the crystal. The faint pink of her shyness, the deep blue of her sadness, the fiery orange of her courage, the hopeful gold of her dreams. The Prism Heart responded. It began to glow, at first softly, then with an intensity that filled the entire chasm. The single point of light fractured into 7, then 1,000,000, then an infinite spectrum of brilliant colors. A wave of pure emotion, a tidal wave of vibrant light, erupted from the heart and surged upwards, out of the chasm and across the world. From the shattered peaks to the ashen plains, color returned. The sky blazed with the impossible blue of a perfect afternoon. The grass exploded in 1,000 shades of green. Flowers burst open in riots of red, yellow, and purple. And with the colors came feeling. A collective gasp swept the globe as people looked at their hands, at the sky, at each other, and truly saw for the first time in generations. A lone musician picked up a dusty violin, and a melody of pure, unadulterated joy, a sound not heard in an age, filled the air. Laughter, bright and golden, echoed in the streets. Tears, both happy and sad, flowed freely, painting cheeks with streaks of shimmering emotion. The world was alive again. Elara stood in the chasm, bathed in the radiant light of the Prism Heart, now beating steadily with a rainbow glow. She looked down at her own hands, no longer just seeing faint wisps, but feeling the full, overwhelming power of every color imaginable. She had not just restored the world, she had reconnected it to its very soul. Her journey was over, but the age of color, the age of feeling, had just begun. And she, the artist, the hue keeper, would be there to paint it all.